Man is simply not made for defeat. One can be destroyed but not defeated, once said Ernest Hemingway. They told you that if you were nice enough, the world would protect you. That if you smiled, served, and sacrificed, you'd be loved. But what if everything you were taught about being good was a lie? From the very beginning, you were programmed to believe that being nice was the path to acceptance. As a child, you were praised for staying quiet, for sharing, for putting others first. You learned early that obedience earned approval and kindness earned affection. But beneath that praise was something more dangerous, the invisible lesson that your worth is measured by your usefulness to others. That lesson never left you. It followed you through school, into friendships, into relationships where you gave more than you had, because you thought it made you good, because you thought that goodness would shield you, but it didn't. What it did was make you a target. You became the one everyone turned to when they needed support, money, help, presents, but disappeared when you were the one who needed something. You told yourself it was okay, that kindness was its own reward, that eventually the world would recognize your heart. It didn't. It only took more. Because in the real world, kindness without boundaries isn't seen as noble, it's seen as weakness, as an open invitation. And the truth is, people don't respect endless givers, they exploit them. But you kept going. You kept bending, adjusting, minimizing your needs, hoping that maybe, just maybe, someone would notice and offer you the same in return. They didn't. And deep down, you started to feel it, that creeping bitterness, the quiet resentment, the ache in your chest when you smiled through pain again, the exhaustion that wasn't physical but spiritual. You started to ask, why does it always feel like I'm losing? Why does being good hurt this much? Why do I feel more invisible the more I show up for others? Because no one told you the cost of being endlessly available. No one warned you that being nice can become a prison, built from your own need to be needed. No one prepared you for how lonely it feels when everyone loves the version of you that never says no. But something inside you knows it's not sustainable. That one day, being good might break you completely. That if you don't draw a line, the world will keep taking until there's nothing left. You see it now, don't you? The truth you've avoided. That being good isn't always good for you. And that maybe, just maybe, it's time to stop playing the role they handed you. Because the next part of your story isn't about kindness. It's about awakening, about reclaiming what you gave away for approval. And it starts the moment you dare to become what they fear most. Not cruel, not chaotic, but dangerous in your clarity. The kind of dangerous that doesn't bleed for everyone. The kind that learns to choose itself. This is where your transformation begins. You want to know when it changes. The moment the rage finally outweighs the guilt. It happens in silence. No one sees it from the outside. You could be smiling, nodding, offering help, still playing the role. But inside, something breaks. Not loud, not explosive, just a clean, irreversible snap. A voice inside you that used to whisper, "Be kind," now growls, "No more." That's when you realize the truth. Your suffering was not a noble sacrifice. It was a transaction where you kept paying and no one ever planned to return the favor. And suddenly, you stop caring whether people think you're kind. You stop explaining your boundaries. You stop chasing closeness with people who only knew how to consume you. Because now you see it clearly, your goodness was their camouflage. It let them sleep at night while draining you dry. But that version of you, the smiling servant, dies here. What takes its place is not cruelty. It's something far more terrifying, awareness. You begin to count the hours you gave away to people who never deserved them. The loyalty you offered to those who vanished when things got hard. The advice you gave, the time you sacrificed, the tears you swallowed just to keep the peace. You see it all now, and you can't unsee it. They told you that love means patience, forgiveness, tolerance. But real love is not martyrdom. Real love doesn't ask you to shrink. Real love doesn't survive off one-sided devotion. What they called love was control dressed in emotional language. And you were just easier to control when you wanted to be liked. But not anymore, because now the thought of being liked disgusts you. It feels cheap, like a collar around your neck you finally ripped off. You don't want their approval, you want distance. You want silence. You want sovereignty, so you start saying the word they fear most. No, not softly, not with apologies, just no. No, I won't come. No, I won't help. No, I won't explain. And with every no, something sharp and ancient wakes up inside you. It's the part of you they tried to domesticate, the part they called selfish, dramatic, too much. But it was never too much. It was your edge, your clarity, your survival instinct. And you're not ashamed of it anymore. You begin to walk differently, speak with less hesitation. You don't fill silences out of anxiety. You don't stay in rooms that drain you. And when someone disrespects you, you don't negotiate, you vanish. Because you've learned that staying kind to people who weaponize your kindness is not compassion, it's suicide. You used to beg for crumbs of validation. Now you look at the table and realize you built it, and no one eats for free. You feel the discomfort of others when you stop being soft. You see them flinch when you stop making yourself small. They call you distant now. They say you've changed, that you've become cold. Let them. Let them call you every name in the book. Their words don't define you, they reveal their loss of control. Because the moment you stopped living for their comfort, you became dangerous. You are no longer the easy one, no longer the backup plan, no longer the yes person. You are fire with direction, storm with purpose. Your time is no longer up for auction. Your energy is no longer their playground. You are finally building a life that feeds you, not bleeds you. And make no mistake, the world will resist your awakening. They will punish your no, guilt-trip your silence, mislabel your distance. Because your empowerment threatens the balance they enjoyed when you were quiet. But you weren't born to be their emotional reservoir. You weren't made to be their backup plan. You were born to rise, to build, to choose. And now you choose yourself every single time because you've lived the life of the agreeable. You've died the slow death of the people pleaser. And it earned you nothing but exhaustion. You owe no one an apology for the strength they didn't expect. You are not here to soften your edges so others can stay comfortable. You are here to sharpen into something unforgettable. And as your no gets stronger, so does your clarity. You see now who was only there for your weakness, who thrived when you were unsure of yourself. And you cut them. No rage, no drama, just distance, because you're not trying to win their favor anymore. You're building something sacred, something brutal, something unstoppable. And the first brick is this: you matter, not because of what you give, but because of what you are no longer willing to lose. Welcome to war, the war of reclaiming yourself, the war of choosing power over approval. This is just the beginning. In the next chapter, you'll learn that being dangerous isn't about destruction, it's about discipline. And you'll understand that the most powerful person in any room is the one who no longer needs to be liked. They used to say that if you're not kind, you'll end up alone. But the truth is, real loneliness is not sitting in silence. It's being surrounded by people who only want pieces of you, never the whole. It's the gut-twisting emptiness of giving everything and being remembered for nothing. And now, with new eyes, you start noticing how many relationships in your life were based not on love or respect, but on your willingness to bend, to endure, to betray yourself in service of someone else's convenience. You remember every conversation where your words were filtered through the fear of being too much. Every relationship where your value was defined by your availability, your silence, your compliance. You see now that what they called love was simply comfort with your boundaries being erased. And when you finally withdrew that access, their love dried up like it was never real at all. It wasn't you they loved. It was the version of you that didn't ask for anything back. And when that version died, they left like they were never supposed to stay. That's when you learn that power has nothing to do with how many people surround you, and everything to do with how much of yourself you keep intact while the world begs you to split open. You stop showing up to every argument you're invited to. You no longer feel the need to explain your silence, to soothe their confusion, or apologize for protecting your time. Because you understand now more than ever that the truly powerful don't explain, they redirect. They move in alignment, not in consensus. And you are beginning to live like that. Slowly, you restructure your life around your energy, not obligations. You stop asking if it's okay to rest. You stop flinching when you say no. You begin to build a schedule that reflects your mission, not other people's demands. You start guarding your mornings like sacred ground, knowing that the first hour of your day sets the tone for your empire. You clear your space, your calendar, your phone of noise, of dead weight, of people who see you as a utility instead of a soul. You learn that time is not something you manage, it's something you own. And every minute spent explaining yourself to someone who's not invested in your vision is a minute stolen from your future. You realize that being nice is a currency that buys you nothing in the world of power, except resentment, depletion, and invisibility. And you're done being invisible. You're done being the easy one, the one who always understands, the one who never asks for help, the one who holds space but never gets held. Because now you understand that even the most sacred wells run dry when the whole village comes to drink and no one ever brings water back. And you refuse to be that well anymore. So you shift, not with noise but with certainty. You begin to move like someone with value, not loud, not arrogant, just deliberate. And that deliberation frightens them, because people can handle your tears, your confusion, your self-doubt. But your clarity, that terrifies them. Because now you say what you mean, and you mean what you say. You don't linger in conversations that disrespect your intuition. You don't keep explaining to people committed to misunderstanding you. And you don't chase what walks away when you stop performing. You begin to make fewer promises and keep all of them to yourself. You realize that protecting your peace will always look like rebellion to those who benefited from your chaos. And so you let them call you distant. Let them call you changed. You don't need to convince them. You only need to stay focused. Because every time you say yes to their comfort, you're saying no to your calling. And that trade is no longer acceptable. You no longer build bridges where there should be walls. You no longer hand out explanations like coupons to people who have never paid full price for your effort. You're learning to say, I don't need your approval. I don't need your validation. I need my life back. And piece by piece, you're taking it. You stop texting first. Stop over-explaining your silence. Stop shrinking when they don't clap. You start measuring your relationships by reciprocity, not history. And the more you honor your truth, the more the universe responds with alignment, opportunities, people, energy that respect the fortress you're building. Because when you change your frequency, you stop resonating with what once drained you. And for the first time, you start to feel power in your bones, not the performative kind, but the quiet, undeniable pulse of someone who has nothing to prove and everything to protect. You walk slower. You listen deeper. You speak less, but every word lands like a stone. And when people ask, what happened to you? You smile, not with bitterness, but with clarity. What happened? You stopped bleeding for people who wouldn't even hand you a bandage. You stopped arguing with people who never had the range to understand you. You stopped dying in pieces so others could feel whole. You chose yourself. And that choice, that's what makes you dangerous. Because when a kind person learns to draw blood instead of just offering warmth, the world shifts. And you're shifting. This is only the beginning. In the next chapter, you'll learn how that shift doesn't just change how people treat you. It changes what you accept, what you attract, and what you destroy on the path to becoming untouchable. They say the storm is over once the sky clears, but they never talk about the wreckage it leaves behind. You've withdrawn your energy. You've cut the ties. You've stopped giving oxygen to what only ever wanted to burn you slowly. But now comes the silence, and that silence is deafening. Because once you stop bleeding for others, once you take your hands off their collapsing structures, the loneliness hits like a second wave. Not the kind that comes from lack of people, but from the realization of how few ever truly saw you. There is grief here, not just for the relationships lost, but for the version of yourself that tolerated them. You see now just how much of your identity was shaped around their comfort, their stories, their projections. You weren't living, you were performing, smiling in the role of the good one, the supportive one, the reliable one. And now that mask is gone, ripped off by the clarity you earned through every betrayal you survived. But clarity comes at a cost. You start noticing the voids, the empty spaces in your calendar, in your phone, in your heart. The silence isn't peace at first, it's withdrawal. Because being needed used to feel like love. Being busy used to feel like value. And now you have to sit in the discomfort of being unapologetically alone, knowing that solitude isn't punishment, it's preparation. And that's when the rebuilding begins, not all at once, not in loud declarations, but in the quiet discipline of who you now choose to become. You stop reacting and start creating. You no longer check who's still watching. You no longer beg to be understood. You realize that the people who left weren't the loss. The loss would have been if you stayed the person who let them take from you without cost. So you start over, not from scratch, but from experience. You rewire your mornings, your rituals, your boundaries. You speak less, but everything you say is rooted in truth. You no longer offer comfort where there is no accountability. You no longer build futures with people who live inside excuses. Your circle shrinks, but your standards grow sharper. You start reading more than replying, listening more than defending. You start feeling your own presence and realizing it was always more powerful than their praise. There's no more proving now. No more over-explaining your heart. No more trying to fix what was never yours to carry. And they notice. The silence makes them uncomfortable. The new version of you, the one who pauses before saying yes, who no longer runs when they call, who doesn't explain every breath, is harder to control. They'll say you changed. You'll agree. And that change, that's your salvation. Because in this new chapter, power isn't in revenge. It's in restraint. In refusing to be available to those who only loved you for your convenience. It's in the quiet satisfaction of watching them learn that access to you was never a right, it was a privilege. One they lost the moment they mistook your kindness for weakness. And as the days pass, you'll start to notice something else. You don't miss them, not really. You miss who you were around them, the version of you that still hoped, still tried. But that version is gone, replaced by someone stronger, colder, clearer. Someone who doesn't chase, doesn't beg, doesn't break. And with that strength comes something rare, peace. Not the fragile peace of pleasing others, but the durable, grounded peace of finally belonging to yourself. And that peace, that's the foundation of everything that comes next. In the final chapter, you'll learn what happens when you stop surviving and start building like a weapon. Because power isn't just what you claim, it's what you protect. And now, you're ready to rise. You don't owe your light to those who only stood by when it was convenient. You don't owe your voice to those who only listened to manipulate it. And you certainly don't owe your future to anyone who tried to dim it. The world will call you cold now, distant, harsh. Let them. That's what people say when they lose access. That's what they say when they realize they can no longer feed on you. They were never in love with your soul. They were in love with your silence, your compliance, your lack of boundaries. But that era is over. You've seen what happens when you give too much. They don't thank you, they expect it. You've learned what they never wanted you to know, that saying no doesn't make you cruel, it makes you sovereign. Now your time is currency and only the worthy can afford it. Your energy is sacred and only the disciplined can share it. You're not here to prove yourself anymore. You're here to build, to dominate, to rise. And you'll do it without permission, without apology, without fear. You don't chase love, you command it. You don't earn respect, you radiate it. You don't seek peace, you become it. And as you move forward, quieter, sharper, more deliberate, they will watch. Some with regret, some with rage. But all with the understanding that the version of you they once knew is never coming back. And in her place stands someone they cannot control. Someone they will never again consume. Someone finally free.